Hello students, welcome to this week's homework video. This video is going to be about natural resources and synthetic materials, which is what we've been talking about. Just a reminder that you do need to submit 3 secret words along with your 5-sentence summary again this week, just like the last 2 weeks. And if you can write your 5-sentence summary of what you read in your textbook, not a summary of this video, but of the reading pages in your textbook, and then write your 3 secret words underneath and then submit it together, please. Okay? The first secret word is going to be pickaxe, Pickaxe, in honor of this Minecraft GIF. All right, so we talked about before in our class that resources are materials and energy sources that are useful or necessary to meet the needs of Earth's organisms, including people. We also talked a little bit about how animals and humans use some of the resources that are the same: sunlight, water, dirt, trees. And there are some things that only humans use, such as metals and gemstones. Animals don't use stuff like that, but we do use it. So remember that the main point of this whole section of this chemistry unit is that humans use chemistry to change Earth's resources, like wheat. Okay, we harvest it from the earth and we grind it up into flour and we change it chemically. We add other things to it, other ingredients. In this instance, in this example of bread, we add milk and we add butter and we add water and eggs, and we turn it into something totally different: bread, a synthetic product that we use for food. And I want you to know that there are 2 types of resources, actually. There are renewable resources, which are resources that can be replaced by nature as quickly as they are used, which include animal resources like fish that we eat and cows that we also eat, trees that we use for wood, for buildings, furniture, paper, and all kinds of other stuff, and food resources like vegetables. And so, for example, if I were to pull some carrots out of my garden and eat them, okay, then I go back the next year, will there be carrots again? Will the earth replenish the carrots that I used up? Yes, there will be carrots again, because it's a renewable resource. If I go to the ocean and I fish, 5 sardines out of the ocean and I eat them and I go back the next year, will there be sardines replenished by nature? Yes, because sardines, reproduce and make babies, and there will be more sardines even though I take the sardines out of the ocean. So these are renewable resources that nature replaces as quickly as humans use them up. On the other hand, there are other resources called non-renewable resources. These ones are resources that are used up by people more quickly than they can be replaced by nature. For example, mineral resources like gold. If you go to a mountain and you find gold and you take all the gold out of the mountain, the earth is not creating any new gold. There's not going to be gold if you go back the next year. If you go back 100 years later, there's still not going to be gold, because there's only a certain amount of gold on the planet, and there's never going to be any more. The earth doesn't make any more. That's why when California had their gold rush, it was a rush. People came and took out all the gold, and now there may be little bits left that were undiscovered, but it's not like California is creating new gold. Same thing with fossil fuels. Okay, coal, oil, and natural gas. So those are fossil fuels that we take out of the ground, out of the earth. The earth is currently making new fossil fuels, but we are taking it out of the ground faster than the earth can replace it, because it takes hundreds of millions of years for the earth to create new fossil fuels, and we people are using it up really quickly, faster than the earth can make it. Okay, so renewable and non-renewable resources, that's one thing that I do want you to learn. Let me talk about fossil fuels real quick. I did mention that there are 3 types. There's oil, coal, and natural gas. And it does take over hundreds of millions of years to make fossil fuels. And the second secret word is falcon, Falcon. Okay, falcon. That's the second secret word. So fossil fuels are non-renewable because they cannot form as fast as they are used up. So coal, for example, is this black rock, and most of the Earth's coal was made during this Carboniferous period. That was 360 million years ago. So a lot of the Earth's coal was made during this time. And so although the Earth is still making coal in some areas of the Earth, it's not making it in these huge quantities like it was during this Carboniferous period back then. Okay, let me talk about oil first, actually. Oil is this black liquid. I've talked about it before in class. We take it out of the ground. But how is it made? How does the Earth even make it? This is how it's made. This is oil formation right here. So basically, there are these tiny little plants and animals that live on the on the ocean surface. So they live over here. They're called plankton, like the evil guy from SpongeBob. So they float on top of the ocean surface because they require sunlight to make food. Some of the plankton are plants. And the plankton that are not plants, the animal plankton, they eat the plants. So all the plankton, whether they're plant plankton or animal plankton, they're living on the surface of the ocean and they're eating, living, and they die eventually. So as they die, they sink down, 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 down to the very bottom of the ocean floor, and then they collect. So over hundreds and hundreds of years, millions of years, they're collecting all the dead bodies of the plankton. They sprinkle down to the bottom of the ocean floor. And then over time, they're getting covered up by sand and dirt and mud and rocks and everything that settles on the bottom of the ocean floor. They're getting covered up, covered up, covered up. And eventually they become part of the clay that's at the bottom of the ocean floor. And then over time, I'm talking about hundreds of millions of years of time, this clay gets compressed and turns into rock. And basically in between the rock, if you see these pockets of black oil, it's the dead bodies of the plankton that got squeezed over time through extreme heat and extreme pressure. This is all happening under the surface of the ocean. Under the ocean floor. That's how oil is created. So oil is like hundreds of millions of years old dead plankton bodies. That's what it is. And what people do, humans, they drill deep, 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 deep down under the ocean floor, and they build these big oil rigs, and they put a pipe down there. They suck out all the oil, and then they take it to refineries and they refine it. And that's why a lot of the oil that humans get is, from the ocean floor. That's where we drill most of the oil. But as you may have heard, oil spills are becoming more and more common. And unfortunately, if there's a pipe breaking in this process, or something happens where all the oil from underneath the ocean floor is released into the ocean, it creates an oil spill. All the oil floats to the top of the ocean, and then it makes this huge mess. There are all kinds of oil spills every year. Some of them are big, some of them are little, but it is bad because it affects not only ocean birds, but turtles, whales, and all the fish, all the animals in the ocean, unfortunately, in that area. But humans still do it every year. Oil is used to make gasoline for cars, diesel fuel for trucks and buses, jet fuel for airplanes. And it's a very precious resource. Not only is oil used for, gasoline and jet fuel, but it's also turned into fertilizers that we use for plants, plastics, as we talked about in class, lubricants like WD-40 and grease for our electronics. Almost all plastic that we use comes from oil, and in California specifically, 70% of our oil is used for transportation. Okay, let me talk about coal real quickly. Coal is this hard black rock made of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and sulfur, and it was made when plants died and piled up at the bottom of swamps. So let me show you about coal formation. Coal was made a very long time ago when there were ancient trees, right? They died and they fell into a swamp. And then over time, that swamp got buried with dirt and, mud, and all this decaying plant matter basically got compressed underground, just similar to the oil. It's like being squeezed over hundreds of millions of years by stuff that's landing on top of it because of the wind and dust settling and all that stuff. And it's getting squeezed over time and getting pushed further underground until it becomes squeezed into hard coal. So now it's deep underground. So what people do is they dig a big hole, big enough for an elevator to go all the way down to this layer of coal. Okay, so I'm talking about this. The elevator gets dug down all the way to this layer of coal, and they send coal miners down there, people with these, these containers. So they like use their axes, and then they chip away at this coal, put it in these containers, and send it up in this elevator. And then they take all that coal to a power plant. Okay. And what the power plant does is it uses the coal to create electricity. And this is how that happens. Basically, the coal is lit on fire. And the reason why we use coal is because it's made of carbon. It burns for a very long time. And we want it to burn because the fire is used to boil water. Okay, and the boiling water evaporates and turns into steam, and that steam is shot out under high pressure to turn a fan called a turbine. So imagine the steam is shooting out, turning a fan, and whenever you can get a fan to turn, it spins coil magnets around a copper coil, and that's what generates electricity. So they send that electricity through these big power lines and structures to your house, to the school, to everywhere, all businesses. Okay, and that's what coal does. That's how we use coal to make electricity. Natural gas is the third fossil fuel, and if you have a gas stove for cooking, you use natural gas probably every day. And natural gas is formed the same way as oil. So basically, the plankton is living, it dies, it sinks to the bottom of the ocean, it gets buried by clay and mud and sand and dirt. And oil forms, right? It gets squeezed over time by heat and pressure. And sometimes on top of the oil, natural gas forms in those same pockets deep under the ocean floor. So it's made in the same way. And we use it not only to cook, but we also use it for heating buildings. Sometimes we use it to generate electricity in the same way we use coal for. Some natural gas fuels vehicles, and we use it for making plastics as well. All right, there are two problems with using fossil fuels, oil, coal, and natural gas. Humans are using it faster than the earth is creating it. It takes millions of years to form fossil fuels. So the fact that it is a non-renewable resource makes it an issue. It's problematic. Once we take all of the coal, oil, and natural gas out of the ground, a couple hundred years from now, there ain't going to be any left. And then what are we going to put inside of our cars, So that's going to be an issue down the road. Another issue, current issue with using fossil fuels is that when we burn the oil, when we use the oil to turn it into gasoline, and then we put it into our car and the car burns it, it creates pollution out of the car's butt, and when we light the coal on fire inside of our power plants to generate electricity, that creates smoke, which pollutes the atmosphere. And same thing with the natural gas. So those are the two issues associated with using fossil fuels. And so basically, that's the end of this video. The main point of this video, okay, is that humans, we take things from nature, natural resources, whether they are renewable or not renewable. We take them from the earth and we change them chemically to create synthetic products that we use for our daily lives, okay? And the third and final secret word is eye patch, in honor of this pirate right here, eye patch. All right, thank you everybody for listening. See you in class.